A preacher is requesting $250,000 in seed money for himself, not for a mission or the underprivileged. He claims that it is a component of God's kingdom vision. What if I told you, however, that this so-called prophet is a member of an expanding movement that is using the Bible to support expensive planes, expensive suits, and hidden money accounts? This controversy isn't limited to the church. It serves as a warning. Welcome back to the channel where we explore the contentious personalities that many are scared to challenge, reveal the hidden side of scandals, and reveal the truth behind the headlines. We're delving into one of the most ludicrous and startling financial scandals involving religion in recent memory. Bishop Clarence McClendon, a well-known prosperity pastor, has come under criticism for urging his followers to sow an astounding $250 as seed money for what he says is a vision of a God-ordained kingdom. However, this goes beyond a single man requesting money. This has to do with a developing trend in contemporary Christianity, prophecies and prosperity gospel strategies that misrepresent the Bible, conflate religion and greed, and take advantage of people's faith in God. We'll examine Bishop McClendon's true identity and business methods in this video, as well as the history and perils of the prosperity gospel movement, the specifics of the $250 seed money scandal and its revelation, and the startling pattern of conduct that links McClendon to other contentious religious leaders. Real facts will be made public, receipts will be uncovered, and the unchecked growth of this movement will be exposed. Stay tuned, because what follows may contradict all of your preconceived notions about contemporary religious leaders. And believe me, you will have a completely different perspective on religion on television after seeing this film. Prior to discussing the $250,000 incident, it is important to comprehend Bishop Clarence McClendon, because scandals aren't isolated incidents. Usually, they develop from patterns. Additionally, McClendon has a long history. During the peak of the televangelist movement in the early 2000s, Bishop McClendon gained notoriety for his emotionally driven sermons, slick clothes, and captivating voice. His TV broadcasts, crusades, and purported healing skills helped him amass a sizable following. Millions were promised riches, deliverance, and hope by his Los Angeles-based ministry. However, his controversies increased along with his celebrity. McClendon startled his congregation in 2000 when he unexpectedly and unexplainably divorced his 16-year marriage. The Christian community was rocked by this action. The abrupt breakup was questioned by pastors and theologians, particularly because McClendon had just months earlier given a public sermon on the value of marriage and perseverance in the face of adversity. He later wedded to a woman named Tamura, which is even more contentious. Rumors circulated that the divorce was far more complicated than first appeared. According to former church insiders, there were rumors of a moral failure that was concealed to preserve McClendon's reputation, even though no formal declarations on infidelity or misconduct were made. Nevertheless, the incident did not deter him. Actually, it did the exact reverse. He intensified his ministry on television. McClendon, who was still well-liked by his followers, started to promote himself more aggressively as a prophet as well as a pastor. He said that God was speaking to him directly, and that this gave him unique insight into the lives of his audience. McClendon started to heavily rely on the prosperity gospel during this time. This theology holds that believers can obtain wealth and other divine blessings if they sow seeds into God's kingdom, which conveniently frequently entails paying the preacher a lot of money. The intensity of McClendon's words increased. People drained their savings accounts as he began to use language like, "God is telling me someone watching this has a $1 seed. If you want to break the curse of poverty, plant a faith seed today. Your breakthrough is on the other side of your sacrifice." Elderly supporters mailed in checks, thinking they were taking part in a divine transaction, while single mothers donated their last paychecks. However, what were they really funding? Exotic cars, private planes, upscale hotel stays, and now a $250,000 seed that McClendon claims God has instructed him to gather for a new prophetic mission. Keep reading to find out exactly when the $250,000 demand was made public, and how even some longtime supporters started to doubt everything. This is where it gets really scary. What exactly is this kingdom vision that needs $250,000? And who's really benefiting from it? Let's talk about the scandal that has the internet buzzing and believers questioning everything they thought they knew about faith, prophecy, and generosity. In late 2024, a video clip of Bishop Clarence McClendon standing in front of a lavishly dressed congregation started making the rounds online. It only gets more shocking from here. There are 10 people in this room and 10 watching online that the Lord is speaking to right now, and God is saying, release a seed of $250,000 to activate your kingdom inheritance. This isn't a donation. The lighting is immaculate. The choir hums softly in the background, and McClendon delivers what he calls a prophetic instruction from the Lord with dramatic pauses and intense eye contact. This is a divine mission. Hold on a second, you heard that right. He is requesting $250,000 per person with no hesitation and a straight face, claiming that it is a faith act that will open supernatural rewards. And it gets worse. The problem is that there is no explicit financial breakdown, no written plan, no board-approved proposal, just a statement that if you give, God will return it to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. He says the $250,000 seed will be used to fund a new prophetic movement that will include global crusades, television expansion, and a kingdom economic system that will allow believers to walk in financial abundance. This instance is not unique, as several viewers attested that this was not merely an impromptu spiritual awakening, but had been practiced and recited at multiple private donor events prior to ever making it to the pulpit. What's even more troubling is that at one of those events, McClendon allegedly singled out wealthy people, including real estate investors and celebrities, and urged them to immediately commit the $250, suggesting that any hesitancy was a sign of a lack of faith. Prosperity gospel circles. God is testing your obedience through your bank account. Delayed obedience is disobedience. Spiritual manipulation through guilt and urgency. If you don't give now, you'll miss your blessing. Let's face it, this is commercialized manipulation, not ministry. Cracks are also beginning to appear, even though his most loyal supporters may still hold fast to his claims. According to recently leaked documents, a former church administrator who wished to remain anonymous for security reasons stated that none of the substantial sums of money raised in previous campaigns could be linked to church infrastructure or charitable endeavors. Let that sink in. Instead, the money was directed into what she described as a convoluted network of LLCs and personal holdings that were directly connected to McClendon and his inner circle. One such holding was a lavish Hidden Hills estate that included a custom pool, a home theater, and, according to real estate records, a private chapel built with funds designated Kingdom Advancement Budget 3. But it doesn't stop there. A few weeks after the $250,000 video went viral, a group of worried believers started an online petition demanding a thorough IRS investigation into McClendon's finances. People were contributing what they believed to be funds for mission work, but instead, they were helping to build a lavish mansion chapel. This is no longer just about bad theology. It's about possible fraud, religious abuse, and the exploitation of weak, desperate people who simply wanted to believe in something greater than themselves. As of right now, that petition has amassed over 40,000 signatures and is still growing. But here's the real question. In the next section, we'll explore the perilous theology behind prophetic seed sowing and how preachers like McClendon are fostering an ecosystem of psychological dependency, spiritual fear, and financial ruin. No one is asking, what if this $250,000 scandal is only the beginning and the true danger is in what's to come? You must comprehend the prosperity gospel, also called the Name It and Claim It or Word of Faith movement, in order to comprehend how a pastor can look someone in the eye and ask for $250,000 in the name of God. If you do, you will see why it is so difficult for people to leave, even when they are aware that they are being used. At its core, this theology teaches that God always wills faithful Christians to have financial blessings and physical well-being, and that the key to unlocking these divine rewards is faith seeds or donations. This is where it gets dangerous, because these teachings don't just say that giving is good. They claim that if you don't give, you will stay poor, ill, or cursed. Let's take a closer look at how this manipulation operates. Step 1 is emotional targeting prosperity. Preachers are aware of their audience, which includes many people who are in need, frequently living paycheck to paycheck, or who are dealing with depression, illness, or family problems. In order to get the audience to cry, nod, and hope, these leaders use emotional triggers in their sermons. They discuss topics like pain, betrayal, past due bills, and broken dreams. Then, they deliver the punchline, which goes, God sees your pain and your miracle is coming. But first you must move in faith. You must release your seed. Step 2 is to twist scripture. One of the verses that prosperity leaders most frequently claim to support their message is Luke 6:38, which goes, Give, and it will be given to you. It is a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and ran over. But what prosperity leaders fail to mention is that this phrase isn't even about money. Step 3. Selling exclusive access to God. McClendon's prophetic declarations are described as downloads from heaven. And if you're not listening or giving, you're missing out on what God is doing right now. It's about mercy and judgment, but in these circles, it's presented as a financial formula. You give money, God gives more money. You sow $250,000, you reap $2.5 million. You withhold, well, maybe God withholds your blessing too. This establishes a spiritual hierarchy with the preacher as God's exclusive spokesperson, regular believers as blessed if they obey, and seed givers as favored and chosen. It becomes less about a relationship with God and more about access to a man who says he has the key. This system traps followers because the moment someone starts to question the doctrine, they are told, "You're doubting God, your blessing is being blocked, you're listening to the enemy." Step 4. Establishing a cult-like environment. This eventually produces an echo chamber in which followers only hear one voice, donate to one ministry, and base their life choices on alleged prophetic statements that may or may not be true, in the belief that a breakthrough is imminent, waiting to be unlocked by the next seed. People have quit their jobs, stopped receiving medical treatment, and given away inheritances. If the breakthrough doesn't materialize, it's your fault. You didn't give enough, you didn't believe hard enough. And McClendon is a master of this model. He calls himself an apostle, speaks with a great deal of urgency, travels with an entourage, and most dangerous of all, claims divine authority whenever he requests money. McClendon recently said, God told me if they don't give the $250,000, their window will close, during a stream service. The same strategies are being used by a whole new generation of TikTok and Instagram prophets. Not only McClendon, but with a younger target audience, better lighting, and slicker branding. I'm just the messenger. That's not preaching. That's spiritual extortion. In the next section, we'll examine how McClendon's inner circle and personal life expose more flaws in the empire and uncover a deeply troubling pattern of financial cover-ups, power abuse, and secrecy, making this more than just a scam. But what if some of these preachers truly believe their own lies? What happens when a man of God confuses his ambition for God's will? The world behind the cameras and under the hallelujah is a world that most of his followers never see. On the surface, Bishop Clarence McClendon seems to be a polished, spirit-filled leader who is well-dressed, eloquent in his speech, and supported by gospel choirs and a devoted team that seem to follow him with unwavering devotion. Welcome to the inner circle, a fortress, not a fellowship. Sources close to McClendon's ministry characterize his organization as more corporate than spiritual. At the top, a small group of loyalists, some of whom have been with him since the early 2000s, oversee everything from security to public relations to finances. It is a tightly controlled ecosystem that is driven by strategy, silence, and secrecy. According to former insiders, each member signs a stringent non-disclosure agreement, or NDA. While this is common for large ministries, the NDAs are allegedly exceptionally harsh, prohibiting staff from discussing even the most basic information regarding McClendon's internal operations, spending patterns, or personal preferences. According to an unidentified former donor relations employee, everything was about protecting the bishop. We were instructed to change the subject if a donor voiced a complaint. There was no transparency. If someone inquired about the whereabouts of their money, we were instructed to respond, "It's in the hands of God, not at all." And the wealth-hidden labyrinth of concealment was purposeful. Even though Clarence McClendon Ministries is officially a non-profit religious organization, watchdog organizations and investigative bloggers have linked his financial sway to a vast network of limited liability companies, or LLCs, some of which are registered under different spellings of his name or under shell addresses. This is what has been discovered thus far. Private worship nights reportedly generated over $600,000 in donations for McClendon Enterprises LLC, which is utilized for media licensing and consultancy. Nevada is where CM Prophetic Global Group is registered. This business oversees missionary tours and real estate holdings. High-end condos in Atlanta and a Malibu beachfront mansion are among the luxury investment properties owned by Kingdom Legacy Holdings. These are not merely companies, they're financial safety nets, shielding them from public scrutiny and tax liability. This is how one watchdog investigator put it. If it is properly arranged, it is not illegal, but it is extremely unethical. In the name of God, he is gathering tithes and investing them in real estate. Because of the church's culture of quiet, it is forbidden to question Bishop McClendon. Rebellion is a common term used to describe disagreement. Quick action, expulsion from positions of authority, loss of ecclesiastical privileges, or social exclusion are the responses to public dissension. A number of former elders have discussed the culture of control in anonymous statements. Leaders are required to make loyalty declarations in which they swear fealty to God and the mission. Employees who receive confidentiality training learn how to avoid answering queries from the media or irate coworkers. Financial tier systems in which contributors are categorized according to their contributions, with larger donors receiving front row seats, exclusive access, and special prayer calls. Church isn't that. It is a pay-to-pray business strategy. And just when you think things can't get much worse, the empire starts to fall apart. Screenshots from a former church accountant's private group conversation started making the rounds in early 2025. They include the accountant's dissatisfaction with the way tithes were going to McClendon's personal vacation fund. She wrote, "I couldn't sleep knowing we canceled school supply drives while he flew first class to receive divine downloads in Dubai." She later left the ministry, unable to speak out because of her NDA, despite the fact that the church's community outreach activities were being reduced due to budgetary limitations. However, the $250,000 controversy and these revelations have caused a growing backlash. YouTube and TikTok are overflowing with blogs, exposés, and reaction videos. Additionally, McClendon's unbreakable reputation is beginning to erode for the first time in decades. His closest supporters, however, continue to stand up for him, referring to the backlash as spiritual warfare. Why? Because, to them, McClendon's downfall signifies everything they offered and everything they gave up. And their beliefs were all for nothing. The most tragic aspect of it is that these men don't merely get people's money. They offer their dreams, their commitment, and their optimism. However, this puzzle has one last component. What if Clarence McClendon isn't the only one involved in this scandal? What if it is a sign of something more serious? For decades, a spiritual industry has been silently flourishing. We'll zoom out in the last section to reveal how the scandal fits into a larger network of preaching about global prosperity, from mega ministers in the US to pastors in Nigeria, all of whom are performing similar performances in larger venues with various accents. This is something you should not miss, since what we just saw is more than just the tale of one man named Clarence McClendon. Let's take a moment to relax and zoom out. It is the tale of an entire system, a machine that has been quietly running under the guise of faith for decades. This system turns the people into clients, the preacher into a star, and the platform into a throne. To be clear, this has nothing to do with disparaging religion or real believers. Religion is sacrosanct. Hope has great power. The issue arises when those holy objects are used for selfish ends. The holy hustler epidemic is worldwide. The example of McClendon is not unique. From South Africa's prophetic anointing oils, which are sold for 100 times their value, to Nigeria's miracle crusades, where people are promised health in exchange for money, to America's mansion-owning pastors requesting private jets so they don't travel with coach and demons. The blueprint is identical, a Bible verse wrapped around a cash request, a message of divine return, a susceptible audience, and a charismatic character, and it consistently functions. Why? Because people are in dire need of peace, healing, and hope, not luxury. And charismatic promises seem like the only option when conventional religion is unable to reassure people. What does justice look like today? The difficult question is one that we must ask ourselves. How does the modern church define accountability? Do these pastors need to pay corporate taxes? Do their ministries need to be audited every year? Before making a donation, should donors insist on financial transparency? And what about those who suffered, who gave their all and received nothing in return? Although we are powerless to alter the past, we can illuminate shadowy areas, pose challenging queries, and shield the future generation from manipulation. This is not merely a takedown video. It serves as a warning. Your voice counts. I'd like to hear your story if you've ever been a part of a ministry like this, where contributing was perceived more as a threat than an invitation. Leave a comment if you have ever been told that God would not bless you unless you gave, or if you have ever been forced to sow a seed that you couldn't afford. If this video opened your eyes, please hit the like button so that others can see it. We're only beginning to reveal the truth about the largest religious scandals in the world, so don't forget to subscribe. To ensure you don't miss another in-depth look like this, press the notification bell. I'll leave you with this final thought. Not all people who shout, "Lord, Lord," are doing God's will. Some are merely using His name to make money. Remain observant, inquisitive, and above all, unrestricted.